If you've ever played a Mario Kart Grand Prix, you'll know that every single time there will be some CPUs who will turn into the absolute bane of your existence for the course of those 4 tracks. And then when you boot up a new cup, those same characters suddenly finish last in every course, and another few are your closest competitors. That is known as the rival system, and has existed in every single Mario Kart since its inception. In order to ensure certain CPUs perform well over the course of the entire cup, instead of just individual races, certain characters are essentially given improved AI over the rest for the duration of that cup. However, whereas several Mario Kart games do this completely random, others have charts used to ensure your closest competitors are characters that have a certain relationship with the character you are playing as. And it's exactly that information that a guy like me can use to deduce how exactly the relationships and affiliations in the Mushroom Kingdom lie. Let's take a look. We begin with Super Mario Kart, because despite being the first game in the series, this one is actually one of the select few who doesn't do it randomly. That said, the small roster means this is not the most interesting one to look at, it mostly provides the basic setup of the concept. However, what is noteworthy is that since this game is really from a different time in the Mario franchise, Mario's biggest rival actually is not Bowser, it's Donkey Kong Jr. This now long forgotten character is less of a true rival of Mario though, he's more of a Mario in and of itself, the protagonist of his own few games. And all those titles actually feature Mario in a villainous role, as the captor of Junior's father, Donkey Kong. And just to make this clear, in case you're not familiar with the bizarre way the Donkey Kong family tree works, the original Donkey Kong, from the early arcade titles and such, is nowadays, in universe at least, known as Cranky Kong. His son Donkey Kong Jr. is, confusingly enough, actually the father of the Donkey Kong we are most familiar with today. And that all makes it all the more interesting that even though Jr. will be one of your biggest rivals when playing Mario, the reverse isn't true at all. In fact, if you play as DK Jr., Toad will be your biggest rival, and Mario will most likely be one of the worst performing characters. Mario is instead Bowser's biggest rival, whereas Bowser himself is Peach's main competitor, which is all stuff as you would expect it, I'd say. Luigi, Koopa Troopa and Yoshi have a triangle with the 3 of them, where Luigi's main rival is Yoshi, Yoshi's main rival is Koopa, and Koopa's main rival is Luigi, which I don't think necessarily has to mean anything, it appears to be more for balancing and variety purposes. Toad's main rival is Peach, which is suitable and probably more a case of friendly rivalry, which is also quite common in these games. Mario's second rival is Peach, for example, while Luigi's is Mario. Noteworthy here though is that, as mentioned, Donkey Kong Jr.'s biggest rival is Toad, while the ape is Toad's second rival, meaning this is a pretty rare double-sided relationship here. However, interactions between Donkey Kong Jr. and Toads are basically non-existent, especially at this point in the franchise, so it's hard to say whether this indicates a dislike for each other or a friendly rivalry. We move on to Super Circuit next, the entry on GBA that would bring the rival system back following an absence in Mario Kart 64. While the roster size of this game is the same as the SNES title, Wario and Donkey Kong are added to replace Koopa and Junior. When you look at the full chart of this game, I'm willing to bet they didn't start from scratch, but instead used Super's version as the starting point. That's not to say there are no differences, there are plenty, but there are some strange decisions here that I can't imagine one making when starting with a clean slate. For example, Mario's biggest rival is Donkey Kong, whereas Bowser is number 2, despite this definitely not being the same Kong that Mario has history with, and at this point in the series, Bowser is very much the main villain. Peach's biggest rival is Luigi, which is just unexplainable really. The only thing I can think of is possible balancing reasons, since Luigi is around the same weight as Peach while Bowser is significantly heavier. Why couldn't it be Mario though? No clue. Balancing almost definitely played a role when looking at Bowser though, whose main rival is Donkey Kong. Sure, these two probably dislike each other, but I think the main reason for this decision is to give Bowser a competitor with a similar weight. This is further supported by DK also having Bowser as one of his main rivals, while Wario's 2 biggest competitors are also Donkey Kong and Bowser. Wario is also Luigi's main rival though, which does feel noteworthy and could potentially be for a reason we will soon cover in much greater detail, taking over the role of Waluigi. Because the next game to feature a rivalry system is Mario Kart 7, which for some bizarre reason left Waluigi out of its roster, and as such, did create a lanky hole in regards to the character dynamic that Wario was forced to fill. While his rivalry with Donkey Kong is retained for what is most likely balancing reasons, his spot as one of Daisy's main rivals is undoubtedly as a stand-in for Waluigi. Similarly, Wario's biggest rivals are Mario, which makes sense, and Luigi, which again feels like a Waluigi influence pick. Looking over the entire chart for this game, I think it's fair to say that this title definitely takes these rivalries way more serious than the earlier games, and really sees it as a way to showcase character relationships. What remains tricky though is being able to tell the difference between friendly rivalries and a genuine bad connection. For example, Mario's rivals include both Bowser and Peach, which is clearly for different reasons. But speaking of Bowser, we immediately find an interesting rival for him here. Alongside the expected Mario brothers, there is also Rosalina. Not Peach, Rosalina, which may suggest her role in bringing him down in Galaxy is not something the Koopa King has forgotten about. Rosalina herself also has two interesting connections here that I'm willing to bet should be taken as friendly rivalries. First is the Honey Queen, which just like her of course originates from Mario Galaxy. Side note, but I don't think it's talked about enough how bizarre this pick for a playable character in Mario Kart is. I'm all for bringing back more niche characters for stuff like this, but when Waluigi isn't even in the game, questions may be raised, I'd say. Anyway, Rosalina also has a connection with Toad, which is mutual by the way, and undoubtedly a reference to the Toad Brigade that are present on the Comet Observatory during the events of Mario Galaxy. When we start to look at more unexplainable relationships, we can't overlook the mutual rivalry between Yoshi and Wiggler. While Wigglers have appeared as enemies in the same titles where Yoshi is a passable helper for Mario, like Mario Sunshine, Mario World and New Super Mario Bros. Wii, the caterpillars have actually never appeared in the Yoshi series. Flutters, their winged counterparts, have, so that might be the origin of this rivalry, but I think a reference to Super Mario 64 DS is more likely. Wiggler is a boss in that game, just like in the Nintendo 64 original, but since Yoshi is the first playable character in the DS version, I can understand why he will be singled out to be Wiggler's rival in a game like this. Mario, Luigi and Wario have better suited rivals than Wiggler after all, Yoshi less so. Another intriguing character from this perspective is Peach. Her two biggest rivals are Donkey Kong and Lakitu. Good luck explaining that. I guess you could say that Peach could serve as a stand-in for Pauline in a DK rivalry, but that has really never happened before, and with Lakitu I genuinely have no clue. If you have any ideas, share them in the comments, I'll pin the one that seems the most plausible. And finally we have the true star of this video, Mario Kart 8, or Deluxe rather, because the Switch retains the few rivalries the Wii U original had and adds a ton of them on top of those. Meaning we'll really only be looking at that game. This game really just follows the same train of thought as Mario Kart 7, which includes the mix of friendly and less friendly rivals. Once again, Mario's biggest rivals are Bowser and Peach, for example. However, the return of Waluigi means that Daisy now has him added to her rivals, while Waluigi himself has the expected connection with Luigi. One thing about his rivalries is quite noteworthy though, especially if you've seen my video on the hidden lore of Mario Party team names, so check that out after this if you haven't. Anyway, to summarize, what stood out in that video is that there appears to be some hidden friendship or connection going on between Wario, Waluigi and Toadette of all people. And surprisingly enough, more breadcrumbs can be found in Mario Kart 8. Wario is one of Toadette's rivals, whereas playing as Waluigi will have her pop up as a competitor as well. It's a shame it's impossible to say whether this is the result of a friendly rivalry or a dislike for one another that could have definitely added even more context to the bizarre connection between these three. On to some more expected rivalries, like the chart for the baby characters. Baby Mario's biggest rivals mirror Mario's, Baby Peach and Bowser Jr., who should probably be seen as a stand-in for Baby Bowser here. The same is the case for Baby Luigi's. Just like his grown-up version, he has rivalries with Mario and Daisy, just their baby equivalents. The trend breaks with Baby Peach, because while adult Peach has rivalries with Toad and once again that weird Donkey Kong connection, her baby form has Baby Mario and Baby Daisy listed. Other neat little references to other games include Pauline's only rival, Donkey Kong, which is a not so subtle reference to the arcade game that started both series, as well as the mutual rivalry between Yoshi and Shy Guy, which is a reference to the Yoshi series, where Shy Guys are the main enemies. Petey Piranha and King Boo are also mutual rivals, a reference to them both appearing in Mario Sunshine, which then led to them becoming paired together in Mario Kart Double Dash. Late edition characters in general have pretty much rivals that you would expect based on their character. Metal Mario and Pink Gold Peach are mutual rivals, as are Dry Bones and Dry Bowser, Tanuki Mario and Cat Peach, and Kamek and Bowser Jr., and both Diddy and Funky Kong have Donkey Kong listed. The characters added from other series are also paired together, with the male and female Inkling and Villager and Isabelle forming pairs. That does mean Link remains without a rival, however, which makes him unique in that regard. Only the Mii's don't have a single rival, and they're quite a separate case anyway, I'd say. But while that does mean we have nearly the entire roster of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe covered now, Booster Course Pass included, there is one unique insight we have left to discuss: the Koopa Links. The rival system gives us a rare look into the inner dynamics of the Koopa Links, and it doesn't just list them all, but instead pairs them off into what we may assume are duos with a stronger connection than with the rest of their siblings. Their favorite siblings, I guess you could say. These pairs are Lemmy and Larry, the two nut jobs, so to say, Roy and Morton, the powerhouses, and Ludwig and Iggy, who I guess you could categorize as the smart ones. The odd one out is their sister Wendy, who instead doesn't have a rivalry with her fellow Koopas at all, but has her sights set on Peach and Daisy. I feel like we can definitely interpret this as a sort of jealousy, similar to what we have seen with Birdo in the past, especially since there is nothing to suggest Peach and especially Daisy have any real problems with Wendy specifically beyond, you know, the kidnappings and all that. But yeah, with those final Koopa Link facts, we have crossed the finish line. What are your theories for the more unexplainable connections here? Or have any ideas what I should tackle next? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel to stay updated on all my future Mario content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.